So thank you very much for joining us. I'm Charlotte and I've got Emily with me today. Emily is a research assistant. And before we get going, Emily, could you just explain to us a little bit about what a research assistant is, please?
Yes, kind of tricky. There's quite a few things and every day is different, but I'm sure a lot of people say that in research. It's a combination of some admin, so just making sure the day-to-day of studies goes smoothly, contacting all the people that need to be contacted, involving various different departments as well. And then kind of the part that I enjoy the most is being able to speak to patients. So I get to recruit people to studies, interview them, talk about their experiences, and generally just check in with people that are involved in the studies too. The longer that you work as a research assistant, the more you get to do. So I've been involved in more study setup or some data analysis and things like that. But it's always interesting. There's something different happening every day and it never goes according to plan.
I'm sure you've become an expert at changing the plan.
Hopefully, yes.
So Emily, what kind of areas do you work in?
So I'm in the patient-centred research department here at the Christie, and we do a variety of different projects, but always the patient is at the centre of our research. So that can be more observational studies or just generally exploring people's experiences. We're also very interested in questionnaires, so how we can track people's symptoms, maybe respond to those quicker and make sure things are kind of centred from the patient experience. How's their quality of life during treatment? Are there ways that we can improve that? How is the service in general? So just generally trying to improve the patient's experience while they're going through a difficult time and making things at the hospital better if we can.
And how important is that to you to make sure patients get that attention, that care and those improvements?
I think that's probably why I got into research in the first place. I think I want to make sure that everybody has access to the highest quality healthcare that they can. As we know, there's inequalities in healthcare at the moment, and there are some quite easy ways that we can improve that. So I think it's more about listening to patients and how we can help them. And I think that's probably why I got into research, so that we could make small changes to make sure everybody gets the best healthcare that they can.
Yeah, it's funny how small changes add up to huge changes.
Definitely,
in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's very true of our department, because obviously we maybe don't do the drug trials and developing new treatments, which is so important, but also looking at the small changes maybe we can do in the hospital. So how we speak to patients, or how we can support them outside of the hospital, or how we can cut down their time in the hospital. One of the studies that we're working on is a home blood monitoring device. So that's just looking for people that are maybe far away from the hospital, they'd be able to do their blood tests at home. And then they can cut down the 2-hour journey that it is for some people to get in at 8 a.m. and then wait for another 2 hours for their appointment.
And that, whilst it sounds like a small thing, is a really significant thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
That's a day a week they get back.
Yeah, I think it's really rewarding to hear when people are involved in research how they think it could improve other people's lives, or how they feel that they've contributed to healthcare in the future, and just how advantageous it would be for them as well if it did come into effect while they were still receiving treatment. So it keeps you going, I think, just to hear that people do appreciate those small changes so much.
So I'm interested about how you got into research. You said why you got into research,
Yeah.
but how did you end up in research? Because we had a chat earlier and it's fair to say this is not what you imagined when you began.
Not really, I wouldn't say so. So my first degree was English literature, and I thought maybe I would want to go into journalism. Again, kind of concerned with inequalities, so social inequalities, and how that impacts people and how we can improve those, or how we need to call out different things that are happening. But then after that, I moved into psychology and I did a conversion course at Glasgow. And I did a project that was looking at women's experiences of recurrent miscarriage. And I found from that, again, this was an area that wasn't researched that much in general. And I just really enjoyed the process. So then I looked to be involved in healthcare research in general and applied for a position at the Christie. So very happy to have got it, but not quite sure how I ended up here in the end. But it all seems to align with what I'm interested in and what I want to do, which is just generally improve people's lives if possible, and especially when they're going through difficult times or experiencing some issues with their health.
You can certainly get your passion, certainly. That's coming across massively, so brilliant to hear. You mentioned some of the stuff you do is sort of talking with the patients, recruiting patients as well. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about what that involves, please.
So that involves kind of checking who would be eligible, seeing if they would be suitable for the study, if it's a good time for them to take part, and then kind of explaining to the patient what would be involved. So trying to be really clear about what would be expected of them so that they're aware of what will be involved. And then those that are interested, which is more people than I expected, to be honest, because I think it always impresses me how much people who have a lot on their plate at the time have so much interest in giving back to the Christie or improving other people's experience. So it's always a lovely conversation, to be honest, and I enjoy speaking to patients very much. So the screening and recruiting happens mostly in person, but obviously with the pandemic we've moved a lot to over the phone. So I've had a few research projects that have been entire conversations and hour-long conversations over the phone. But yes, enjoy all of it, to be honest.
And then do you stay in touch with them when they're on the trial as well?
Yeah, definitely. So it's making sure that everybody is informed and they can hear about how they've been involved in the project and how that will help in the future. They get to see the research that we've done. They can also kind of have input into the research as well. So we think it's really important that we don't set up projects that people aren't interested in or they don't think would be relevant at all. Obviously, patients are experts by experience, so involving them in the setup or creating study documents, making sure the language we use is accessible for everyone as well. So they can be involved as much as they'd like to, but we're essentially just checking that they still want to be involved and any further information they'd like to find out, and also just maintaining a relationship.
You mentioned it's a very varied job, from the admin to the patients to all the other stuff. What would you say is the best bit of your job? That you've finished for the day and you go, yeah, that was a great day.
Tricky. I think probably my favourite is interviewing patients. So I think sometimes it's the only time that patients get to fully express how they feel sometimes. So I've had hour-long conversations with women who get to say the impact that their cancer might have had on them and their family without filtering that. So there's slight kind of discussion about the medical part of it, but also just mentally how that's been and how that's going to impact them in the future. And my favourite part is having those sort of really honest and vulnerable conversations that are so helpful for research, but also being told afterwards that I haven't told anyone that, or I really appreciate taking part in the research and just feeling listened to. I think it's nice for me that patients can feel that their opinion is really valuable and that they are an important part of the healthcare service. They're what makes it better. And also we need to kind of direct all of our future research off what they think is important, because we can only say what we think, but at the end of the day, you just want to improve their day-to-day lives within their cancer journey.
And what are you working on at the moment? What's the big project?
The home blood monitoring device that we're developing at the moment with a company called Entia, that's probably the most exciting, and we've had some of the articles in the paper and things like that. And it's nice to see the public excitement around that too. But I'm also working on developing a questionnaire that patients will use if they have advanced ovarian cancer and they're experienced with surgery and chemotherapy. So surgery in that specific patient group is really under-researched, and obviously that has a massive impact on your life. It's a really intensive surgery, so that's currently what we're looking to develop, just to make sure that people are getting the support and the kind of speed of the response of the clinicians, trying to improve that as much as possible and support other areas of their life and improve their general quality of life. So that's my favourite one too.
So I've been asking everybody this because there's lots of myths around clinical trials and clinical research. And I'm sure you've heard concerns or people have come up with thoughts and stuff, especially when you're doing the recruiting part of it as
definitely.
well. If there was one, I might allow you two, myths that you would like to just bust right now, what would they be?
I think the first one would be that the drug trials and the early phase clinical trials are kind of a guinea pig test. We don't know what's going to happen. Anything could happen, essentially, is sometimes what people think. But the amount of regulation and the amount of kind of paperwork and rules that you have to go through to even get to that point, I think is important for people to know, because you wouldn't have got that far if we didn't have like a strong belief that that would hopefully be a beneficial drug in the future. So I think that would be the first one. And then I think the second one would be kind of the expected attitude between a researcher and a research participant. So sometimes I think it's a bit of a power perception. And I think research in general has developed more to change this, but it's less of a, I will quiz you and I will expect things from you as a researcher, and more of a co-production of research, especially in the department that I'm in. So it's more about making sure that I get across how much they are the expert and I'm merely there to record their experience. I'm not there to quiz them, and I'm not there to find issues with what they're saying. So I think kind of re-establishing how research works and the involvement of research participants in it is really important too.
And how do you do that? How do you make sure that the patient knows that they are the expert and you value everything they're giving that they're giving you?
I think it's just general human compassion, and also I think it's making sure that you check in with people. They might have said something at the beginning and then feel slightly uncomfortable, and it's about making sure that you check you are in control and saying the words, you are in control, you may withdraw at any point. Anything you don't want to say, you don't have to say. Any questions you don't like, you don't have to answer. And just kind of being really explicit about their power in that situation, their control over the situation, and how it is very much up to them, how much they're involved, and just also kind of having normal conversations, making sure that they feel fully comfortable before jumping in to some potentially distressing questions, just being aware of how they might be feeling at the time.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Emily.
It's been nice
been
to
an
speak to
absolute
you.
pleasure, and I've learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you.